Liam sat on the edge of his bed, his fingers absently tracing the worn strings of his guitar, each note resonating with memories of laughter, love, and the gentle encouragement of his grandfather. In that small room, filled with posters of his favorite bands and stacks of textbooks, he felt the weight of the world pressing down on him. The vibrant energy that usually filled his heart had been replaced by an unsettling silence, a stillness that crept into every corner of his life. It was the kind of silence that followed terrible news, the kind that gnawed at the edges of his thoughts and made each breath feel like a burden. He could still hear the doctor's words echoing in his mind. A rare illness, a grim prognosis, the implications of a family already stretched thin. Before we dive deeper into Liam's journey, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel. Your support is everything to us and is the only way to ensure these heartfelt stories reach more people. It helps us continue our work, so please subscribe now. As he stared out of the window, the world outside seemed oblivious to his turmoil. Kids his age were out riding bikes, laughing, and living life without a care. But for Liam, life had shifted dramatically in the span of a few days. His grandfather, once a robust man who could fix anything with a wrench and a smile, was now frail and confined to a hospital bed, battling not just the illness but the crushing reality of their family's financial struggles. The memories of his grandfather's strong hands teaching him how to ride a bike, the stories shared over homemade meals, and the warmth of hugs that felt like home flooded his mind. How could he sit idly by while the man who had given him so much faced such an insurmountable challenge? With a determined heart, Liam rose from his bed and surveyed the room filled with his possessions. Each item held a story, a fragment of his childhood that he cherished deeply. There was the gaming setup that had provided countless hours of escape and laughter with friends, the guitar that had been his solace during lonely nights, and the small collection of trinkets that reminded him of his late mother. But as he thought about his grandfather, the weight of those memories felt like a chain, holding him back from taking action. He realized that it was time to make a choice, one that would require sacrifice and strength beyond his years. What if he sold everything? The thought raced through his mind, a flicker of hope igniting within him. If he could raise even a fraction of the money needed for his grandfather's treatment, it would be worth it. The guitar, the gaming setup, even the cherished mementos that connected him to his mother would all have to go. It was a painful decision, but the thought of his grandfather's suffering was unbearable. He could already envision the relief on his grandfather's face, the twinkle in his eye returning as he fought back against the illness. With newfound resolve, Liam grabbed his phone and began to type messages to friends, posting on social media about his plans. He detailed the situation, the urgency of their need, and the lengths he was willing to go to help the man who had sacrificed so much for him. Could his friends understand? Would they support him in this endeavor? He felt a mix of anxiety and determination coursing through him, the fear of judgment battling with the fervor of his love for his grandfather. As the hours passed, he received a flurry of messages, some expressing support and others offering to help in any way they could. A few friends even volunteered to come over and help him gather his belongings, turning what felt like a solitary struggle into a shared mission. It was a heartwarming reminder that, despite his fears, he wasn't alone in this fight. The bond of friendship, much like the bond he shared with his grandfather, was a powerful force that could help him through even the darkest of times. Liam spent the next few days in a haze of activity, carefully sorting through his possessions. Each item he picked up was a reminder of the joy and comfort they had brought him, but the thought of his grandfather's suffering propelled him forward. He meticulously packed away his gaming setup, the console that had been a gateway to adventures and victories with friends, and the guitar that had sung countless melodies of hope and longing. As he placed each item in boxes, he felt a bittersweet mix of emotions, grief for the loss of his belongings, and an overwhelming sense of purpose. The community began to take notice of Liam's efforts as he posted updates on social media. Friends shared his posts, and the story of his sacrifices spread like wildfire. Neighbors, who had watched Liam grow up, began to reach out, offering words of encouragement and asking how they could help. It was a beautiful tapestry of support that began to weave itself around him, the fabric of community drawing tighter with each passing day. One afternoon, as he was sitting on the front porch, exhausted from the whirlwind of packing and organizing, he noticed a familiar face approaching. It was Mrs. Thompson, an elderly woman from down the street who had always offered him cookies when he was a child. She walked with a slight hunch, but carried her cane with dignity, her eyes sparkling with kindness. "Liam, dear," she said, her voice warm and soothing. "I heard what you're doing for your grandfather. It's truly remarkable." Liam felt a rush of warmth at her words. "Thank you, Mrs. Thompson. I just want him to get better. He deserves it." With a gentle smile, she reached in her bag and pulled out a small envelope. "This is for you. It's not much, but I hope it helps." Inside was a small amount of cash, a token of her support and belief in his cause. Tears sprang to Liam's eyes as he took the envelope, overwhelmed by the kindness of someone he had always admired. He realized that his actions were resonating beyond his immediate circle, inspiring others to contribute in their own ways. That evening, a wave of gratitude washed over him as he sat down to write a heartfelt thank you note to Mrs. Thompson, reflecting on how love could manifest in the simplest of gestures. As days turned into weeks, the growing support from the community transformed his individual sacrifice into something much larger, an embodiment of hope and resilience. Liam started to feel a sense of purpose that filled the void left by his material losses. Each sacrifice he made brought him closer to his grandfather, reinforcing the bond that had always defined their relationship. Yet in the quiet moments alone, he couldn't shake the heaviness in his heart. The decision to part with his belongings weighed on him, and as he lay in bed at night, he often found himself staring at the ceiling, wrestling with the memories that clung to him. But then he would think of his grandfather, lying in a hospital bed, fighting for every breath, and the pain of loss transformed into a fuel for his determination. Liam was resolute. He would do whatever it took to bring a smile back to his grandfather's face. The journey was just beginning, and he was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, driven by love and the strength of the community rallying behind him. He had learned that sometimes the greatest gifts come not from what we hold, but from what we choose to give away. And for Liam, that realization was the most profound lesson of all. As Liam's resolve deepened, so did the community's response. What had initially begun as a personal sacrifice morphed into a collective effort that transcended the boundaries of age and background. Neighbors who barely spoke to one another joined forces, each one bringing their unique skills and resources. It was heartening to see the town come alive with a sense of purpose, a shared mission to support Liam and his grandfather. The local diner, where Liam had spent countless hours after school, offered to host a fundraiser, donating a portion of the night's earnings to the cause. The owner, Mr. Jenkins, had known Liam since he was a toddler, and his heart swelled with pride at the young man's selflessness. "Liam, you've inspired all of us," Mr. Jenkins said, clapping a hand on Liam's shoulder. "We can't just stand by and watch you go through this alone. Let's make it a night to remember." The news spread quickly, and soon, the small diner was buzzing with excitement and anticipation. Flyers were plastered all over town, announcing the event. Community night for Grandpa Joe. The bright colors and bold letters read, a testament to the collective spirit of the town. As the date approached, Liam felt a mixture of nerves and excitement bubble within him. He was grateful for the support, but anxious about whether they would raise enough to make a difference. On the night of the fundraiser, the diner was filled to the brim with familiar faces. Liam stood by the door, greeting friends and neighbors as they arrived. Each person brought with them not only their presence, but also a sense of goodwill that warmed his heart. The walls echoed with laughter and chatter, the aroma of comfort food filling the air, a stark contrast to the sterile smell of the hospital that had become all too familiar to him. As the evening unfolded, people shared stories about his grandfather, each anecdote a thread woven into the fabric of their community. "I remember when Joe fixed my old truck for free, just because I couldn't afford it," one man said, raising his glass in salute. "He taught me how to change my own oil. That man never asked for anything in return." With each story, Liam felt a sense of pride swell within him. His grandfather had touched so many lives, and now it was their turn to help him. As the night progressed, they held a raffle with donated items ranging from baked goods to homemade crafts. Liam could hardly believe how generous everyone had been. When it was his turn to speak, he felt the weight of the microphone in his hands, but he quickly found his voice. "Thank you all for being here tonight. Your support means the world to me and my grandpa," he said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "I never expected this kind of kindness from our community, but it shows that love and sacrifice can bring us together in ways we never imagined." The crowd erupted into applause, and as Liam glanced around, he saw faces filled with encouragement and hope. In that moment, he felt the powerful bond of community that had formed around his personal struggle. The evening culminated in a heartfelt moment when Mrs. Thompson stood up to share her own story about how Joe had helped her after the passing of her husband. Her words were filled with gratitude, and tears glistened in her eyes as she spoke of the strength that Joe had always embodied. As the night drew to a close, Liam's heart swelled with hope. They had raised a significant amount of money, enough to cover a substantial portion of his grandfather's treatment. But even more importantly, they had ignited a spirit of compassion that would linger long after the last plate was cleared. With a renewed sense of purpose, Liam left the diner that night, feeling lighter and more connected than ever to the people around him. Days turned into weeks, and with each passing moment, the bond between Liam and his grandfather grew stronger. Liam visited his grandfather every day at the hospital, bringing him stories from the fundraiser, sharing laughter, and holding his hand through the tough moments. He often played small tunes on the guitar, trying to bring a semblance of normalcy to their lives. The music floated through the sterile room, creating a bridge between the past and present, a reminder of the life they had built together. But the road to recovery was not without its obstacles. Each day brought new challenges, and the reality of his grandfather's illness weighed heavily on both of them. Liam watched as the man he admired so much battled through pain and discomfort. It was during one of these visits that he saw a flicker of doubt in his grandfather's eyes, a shadow that seemed to linger just beyond the edges of his smile. "Liam," his grandfather said one afternoon, his voice hoarse but steady, "you've done so much for me. I wish I could take away your pain." Liam shook his head, a fierce determination igniting within him. "No, Grandpa. You've always been my rock. This is my chance to give back, to show you how much you mean to me. You taught me that family is everything. I'll do whatever it takes." His grandfather's gaze softened, and for a moment, they simply sat together in silence, the weight of their shared understanding enveloping them. It was a moment that transcended words, a deep connection that spoke of love and resilience. As the weeks passed, Liam continued to receive support from the community, with various local businesses holding their own fundraisers and charity events. But it wasn't just about the money. It was about the way people came together, the way they reached out to one another, creating a network of kindness that spread throughout the town. Then, one fateful afternoon, everything changed. Liam received a call from the hospital, his heart racing as he answered. The voice on the other end was familiar, but the urgency in their tone sent a chill down his spine. "Liam, I need you to come to the hospital. It's about your grandfather." The words hung in the air like a dark cloud, and Liam's breath quickened. He raced to the hospital, his heart pounding with every step. As he entered the familiar hallway, he was met by the concerned faces of the medical staff. The world around him felt surreal, each moment stretching into eternity as he approached his grandfather's room. When he entered, he found his grandfather lying in the bed, surrounded by nurses. The room was filled with beeping machines and the sterile smell of antiseptic. Liam's heart sank at the sight of his grandfather, frail and pale, but there was an undeniable spark in his eyes that brought Liam a sense of comfort. "Liam," his grandfather whispered, a weak smile breaking through the pain. "I'm so glad you're here." Tears sprang to Liam's eyes as he rushed to his grandfather's side. "What's happening? Are you okay?" His grandfather took a deep breath, his gaze steady. "I'm fighting, Liam, but the doctors say we need to act fast. There's a treatment that could help, but it's going to be difficult." In that moment, Liam felt the weight of the world on his shoulders. The sacrifices he had made, the support they had received, all of it came rushing back to him. We'll find a way. We've come this far, and we're not stopping now. As he held his grandfather's hand, he felt the love and strength coursing between them, a reminder that they were in this together. Just then, a nurse entered the room with a clipboard, her expression professional yet compassionate. "Good news, Mr. Thompson. We have a plan in place, and we'll do everything we can to make sure you receive the treatment you need." Liam let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. It was a glimmer of hope, a reminder that their journey was far from over. He knew that as long as they had each other, they could face whatever challenges lay ahead. If this story is touching your heart, make sure to comment from where you are hearing this amazing story. Liam squeezed his grandfather's hand tighter, feeling the warmth of their connection radiate through the room. With the community standing behind them and the love they shared, he knew they could conquer anything. They were a team, bound by sacrifice and resilience, ready to face the future together. As the days unfolded, Liam and his grandfather prepared for the treatment that would require not just physical strength, but emotional fortitude as well. Each morning, Liam would wake early, the sun casting a gentle glow through his bedroom window, filling him with a sense of purpose. He would gather his guitar and play a few soft melodies before heading to the hospital, hoping the music would bring a smile to his grandfather's face. The treatment began, and it was a tough road. There were moments when his grandfather felt defeated, the toll of the illness and the grueling sessions weighing heavily on him. Liam witnessed the pain etched on his grandfather's features, the moments of quiet despair that would sneak in between the fights. But with every visit, Liam brought not only his guitar, but also stories of the community's ongoing support. He'd tell him about the bake sales, the car washes, and the back-to-school drives that were being organized in his honor. Each story became a thread in the tapestry of their shared fight, weaving a bond that was deeper than any words could convey. One particular afternoon, as Liam strummed a gentle tune, his grandfather suddenly turned his gaze to him, a spark igniting in his tired eyes. "You know, Liam," he said softly, "I've always believed in the power of community. You're seeing it now, aren't you?" Liam nodded, a lump forming in his throat. "Yeah, Grandpa. It's incredible. People want to help, and it's all because of you. You've touched so many lives." His grandfather smiled, a look of pride shining through the weariness. "And you've shown them what it means to love unconditionally. You've turned your pain into strength, and that's a powerful thing." As treatment progressed, the hospital room transformed into a sanctuary of hope. Friends and family took turns visiting, filling the space with laughter and shared memories. They brought along photos and mementos that reminded everyone of the vibrant life his grandfather had lived. Each visit was a reminder that love could mend even the deepest wounds. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow through the window, Liam sat beside his grandfather, playing a song that had been one of their favorites for years. It was a melody of resilience and hope, and as the notes danced in the air, something remarkable happened. His grandfather, with a faint smile, began to hum along, his voice shaky but filled with the strength of their shared moments. In that instant, the weight of their struggles seemed to lift, if only for a moment. They were not just fighting against an illness. They were celebrating life, the love that bound them, and the unwavering spirit of a community that refused to let them face it alone. As the treatment began to show signs of progress, the atmosphere shifted. Doctors spoke of improvements, of small victories that would eventually lead to bigger ones. The hope that had flickered in Liam's heart began to blossom into something tangible. The news spread quickly through town, and the community rallied once more, organizing a Hope for Joe celebration to mark the progress of his treatment. On the day of the celebration, the town square was transformed into a vibrant scene of joy and unity. Colorful banners adorned the trees, and tables filled with homemade goods lined the streets. Liam felt a swell of gratitude as he looked around at the faces of friends, neighbors, and even the townsfolk he barely knew, all coming together to celebrate not just his grandfather's recovery, but the power of connection they had all forged. As the festivities began, Liam took to the stage, his heart pounding with anticipation. He had decided to play a song dedicated to his grandfather, a tribute to the man who had given him so much. With the guitar slung over his shoulder, he strummed the opening chords, the melody filling the air with emotion. As he sang, Liam's voice trembled with the weight of his feelings. He poured his heart into every note, the lyrics echoing not just his love for his grandfather, but the collective hope that had enveloped their community. The crowd listened in rapt still, some swaying gently while others wiped away tears. When the last note faded, a thunderous applause erupted, a wave of support washing over him. Liam looked out into the crowd, and his eyes landed on his grandfather, seated in a wheelchair at the front, a proud smile illuminating his face. In that moment, Liam knew that their journey had not only changed his life, but had also touched countless others. Weeks turned into months, and with each passing day, Liam's grandfather grew stronger. The treatments continued, and slowly but surely, the man who had once seemed so frail was reclaiming his vitality. They shared countless moments of laughter and reflection, and their bond deepened in ways Liam never thought possible. One afternoon, as they sat outside in the warm sun, his grandfather looked over at him, a twinkle of mischief in his eyes. "You know, Liam, I think I owe you a lesson or two about playing that guitar of yours." Liam chuckled, the sound ringing with the joy of shared memories. "I'd like that, Grandpa. Show me what you've got." As they began to play together, notes intertwining in a harmonious dance, Liam realized that the sacrifices he had made were not just about giving up his belongings. They had also opened the door to something far more valuable: the unbreakable bond between a grandfather and grandson, fortified by love, resilience, and the profound understanding that material possessions could never replace the richness of their connection. In the following months, as the seasons changed, Liam and his grandfather became a symbol of hope in their town. Their story traveled beyond the borders of their small community, touching the hearts of many as news outlets picked up on the tale of sacrifice and love. People from neighboring towns reached out, sharing their own stories of resilience, and it became clear that Liam's bravery had ignited a wave of compassion that resonated far and wide. Finally, the day arrived when his grandfather received the all-clear from his doctors. They had fought valiantly, and through the power of community and love, they had emerged victorious. The news felt surreal, a culmination of their struggles and the unwavering support that had surrounded them. As Liam and his grandfather left the hospital for the last time, a sense of liberation washed over them. They stepped into the sunlight, a world filled with possibilities awaiting them. Hand in hand, they walked down the street, their hearts buoyed by the knowledge that they had not only endured but had thrived together. With a newfound appreciation for life and the bonds that held them together, they returned home, ready to embrace the future. And while Liam had sacrificed much along the way, he realized that what he had gained was immeasurable: the love of his grandfather, the strength of their community, and a profound understanding that true wealth lies not in possessions, but in the relationships we nurture and the sacrifices we make for those we love.